Serena Conference Center. And tonight we are talking about Kampala's destitute, the poorest of the poor of Kampala. Where do they live? Who is in charge of them? But just before we get into this discussion, let's hear from them. Let's play a clip that we got earlier in the week when we met some of them.
Nabeera mu kyalo nga sirina buyambi ate kyokka ate ni maama mukayire musibe wa gundi basi kale nembeera mu kyalo nensaala nasaala mwezi gwa 10 ngenda kuwa mwezi 10 omwezi gwa 10 basi kati nange nempulirisa bane nga bagamba mbweye Kampala eyo n'ogenda ofuna buyambi nkwesabirisa kati nange yokukola ki yokujja wano ate sinna kyenfuna kubonaabona sinna kyenfuna nfuna kuswala era n'okwesabirisa kale
bwe buno netugubwe affe wetufunako sente kiro yawe ya nusu 10 kati ino nsoze nayo kiro tinabana uwera bona
bazadde babwe gye bali nina bazadde babatuka ne babatawanyisa ne badduka.
Dadu yange mekufa Omanyi. His father is a car.
Where is the father now?
Yeah, he's working in Kampala and Katakwi.
Nengambo why? Wano lwaki mbonaabona ne batulugunya kwe kudduka e Kampala.
Ebyo bw'oyogera ku njaye yo tuginywa sijja kugamba tetuginywa yo tuginywa ngaffe.
Nalowooza okuddayo naye nga naleka nakolayo omusango guli tuvula abaana batandika okukozesa ekigambo amafuta ngusimanya agenyonyi gano nawunga obwongo n'atayagala kati kumanya.
Well, now that we've heard from some of the people who live on Kampala's streets, let's hear from our guests for tonight. I'll introduce them. Jen Stella Ogwang, who is the Principal Probation and Welfare Officer in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. She works in the Department of Youth and Children Affairs. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Josephine. Good evening, viewers.
Okay, and then we have Agnes Chambade, who is the Executive Director of Slum Aid Project, which works towards improving welfare for people living in slums, ensuring they have a fair and dignified life. Welcome.
Thank you, Josephine.
Okay.
Good evening, viewers.
And finally, we have Mohammed Kisirisa, who is the CEO of AFCAD, Action for Fundamental Change and Development, a grassroots NGO in Bwaise, Kampala. Welcome.
Thank you, Josephine. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Mohammed. All right, so we'll just get right into it. Who are Kampala's destitute?
The poorest of the poor who live in Kampala. These are the people who usually sleep on the streets. Some of them sleep in the shacks. Some of them sleep in the wooden, shelters. And some others actually do live in mud houses.
Or even on the street, like some of the pictures that we have there.
Yes, or even on the streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is that all? Where do they come from?
Most of these people come from, first, some of them come from the slums. Some of them come from the rural areas, mostly from broken homes. Most of them, some others were actually born on the streets and have lived there since. So some others are children born like in Wandegea. You find some of these children were born of mothers and fathers from the university. So you find they are there and they don't know their fathers. Sometimes the mother is so poor. So it is all over. I think for me it is like it's a broken system all of us is a responsibility for all of us.
For all of us. Do we have numbers? Do we have numbers of these people, Jane? Do we have the numbers of street children, the numbers of the beggars?
Thank you, Josephine. Just like Agnes said, a destitute is somebody who lacks possession, who doesn't have the basic needs of life. And in terms of numbers, you cannot put a finger on the numbers that we have in Kampala. Because when you go during the day, you're going to find them. When you move in at night, you're going to find them. It becomes a little bit difficult, but we can see the children on the streets. We can see older persons live on the streets, and we can also see persons with disability on the streets.
We've never tried to get any figures.
We have tried. We did a study working with partners about 3 months ago, and in terms of children living and working on the streets, we got about 3,900.
That is in Kampala?
It's in Kampala.
City center?
In the city center.
Okay.
We have those living and working on the streets, who about 2,700, about 2,300 who come live and work on the streets. Then we have those who only come during the day and go back. They come from their homes, just like Agnes said, they come from their homes to work in Kampala and then go back in the evening from the surrounding neighboring districts. That's where they come from to work and go back.
All right. Mohammed, what do you think brings these children and these women and men on the streets?
You mentioned that our NGO comes from Bwaise. I myself was born and raised in Bwaise, where all things are possible. And many of the young people that I've seen on the streets in Bwaise, first, many of them used to come because there was war. There was a war in northern Uganda.
In the north, yes.
But also I've seen many of them that are coming from the different parts of the neighboring countries, still because of disabilities, and others that mostly young girls that are engaged into sex work, they come because of human trafficking. So they end up in these communities because someone brought them from somewhere and they promised them a good living, a better job in Kampala. So they end up in these spaces because they were either brought because they were promised a job.
Okay. Who is in charge of them when they come on the streets? Forget about the person who brought them to Kampala promising them all of this, but they're on the street. Who is in charge of them?
The responsibility of the person who is in charge of the people who come, okay, for Kampala, the people in Kampala, the responsibility lies with Kampala Capital City Authority because they are the local authority that are responsible for the persons who live in their locality by law. But it also gets down to the relatives and the community and the families of the people who come, because they should be in position to know where I like what Mohammed said. Most of them come as a result of trafficking, and the trafficking is the responsibility of the families of these people. The families are promised, and the families are encouraged, and they allow for the girls to leave their homes to come and work. So you then find that the responsibility also lies with the family and the community, where the girls are coming from, the children are coming from, the disabled are coming from, and also to where they are going to. The responsibility still lies on that.
Where does your ministry come in?
Yes, thank you very much. Our ministry is the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. We are responsible for legislation. We are responsible for having laws, for having policies, for developing action plans for all categories of people.
What's the action plan for the people living on the street?
Now, we have a strategy for working with children on the streets. We also have a national action plan on persons with disability. We have a national action plan on older persons. We have a national action plan on children engaged in child labor.
That's a lot of action plans.
A lot of action plans.
Are they actually working?
Yes, they should be working.
They should be.
They work.
Are they working?
They are.
Okay, so what exactly do they do?
Now, in terms of, for instance, for street children, when the children come on the streets, the responsibility lies with the local government where the children are, to ensure that these children are resettled back where they are coming from. And we do this working with partners. The strategy clearly lays down the strategies that should be used in terms of withdrawing them from the streets, working with them, rehabilitating them, and then reintegrating them back in their family, in the community and families where they come from. It is laid down, and the different roles of different actors is equally laid down in the strategy that everybody should follow.
Jen, I want to let you get your breath, but let me then ask Agnes, as you do that, yes. Why is it that even after we have all of these action plans and these people, you know, going to the streets, getting the children, the women, taking them away, the numbers are not going down, are they?
Then, you know, like the clip that you showed, somebody is told when you come to Kampala, you're going to earn a very good living, you're going to be comfortable. When we remove people from the streets, others are coming. Because everybody has been promised the best way to survive is on the streets.
But there are particular faces that we find in particular. We actually now know faces of who is on which street. We know a particular guy who is always around that corner. And why is it that these people still come back, even when there are these, you know? Now,
why they come back is, there can be other reasons. But I can look at, Agnes said poverty, and then adopting to the situation back home is a problem. Of course, when they go back home, the family is in the traditional African setting, the family had a very strong safety net for different categories of people. But that fiber has gone down. The family has disintegrated. Nobody wants to take responsibility of the children, of the older persons, of the disabled, and even the youth within their family setting to support them. So when they go back, that fiber that used to hold them together is no longer holding. So it has broken.
So our families are broken.
The families are broken, okay. The community safety networks are broken. So when they go back, nobody can hold them together and support them. That's why they decide to come back on the streets.
Okay. Well, Agnes, where do the NGOs come in? The ones that are tagged to these particular areas?
Well, I will talk about the role of NGOs. It is basically to influence, to inform, and to critique policy making and policy implementation. So in this, NGOs in Kampala, I actually want to applaud all the NGOs that are working in Kampala, because funding for urban projects is not very easy, but a lot has been done. Josephine, I want to give you an example of, because you're asking about why people have to stay there. There are so many other issues. It's not only what my friend was saying. There is also the problem of culture, especially for us women. At one time, there was a woman brought to our office. This woman had 3 children. She left home as a girl, came to Kampala, gave birth to these children. She was pushed to the streets because her husband left her with the children. So this woman, we tried to take her back to her home in Kinkizi. The husband was coming from Arua. When this woman reached Kinkizi, the dad said that, no, I will welcome you back as my daughter, but take back the children to the father. And the father was not there. So these are the issues. There are quite very many issues to do with destitutes on the streets.
So how do NGOs help these people?
NGOs help to take them back. NGOs have empowered these people. They have taught them to, skilled them up. Like, they have also tried to sensitize them on how to return home and, you know, a better life.
Do they go to the communities to teach them or help them to welcome these people back and make them, for example, when Mohammed mentioned that some of them came because of the war in the north?
But by the way, so many vulnerable people always go to the NGOs. They always reach the NGOs. When life gets so difficult, they will come themselves. And down at the community level, we always have, like, Slum Aid Project has community volunteers. They will go to those ones.
Mohammed, what is the reality on the streets?
I don't know how I should describe reality.
As best as you can. What does it look like? What does life on the streets look like?
I mean, it's a tough life. it's real life. It's imaginable. Like if you have not been there, you can't really imagine.
Give me a typical day.
Okay, I should speak maybe a little bit about myself when I was 11.
Yes, that's why I'm asking you.
Okay, you know, when I was 11, I had to go through some tough life, and I started working basically at the age of 11 as a child to raise money to go to school. So, and it took me quite a while of time when I was living, you know, around the streets of Waise, and doing that, you know, Jua Kali. I remember my first job as a tap operator. So I was managing a tap, and I used to do a lot of things, metal scrap picking, you know, helping people at home and doing quite a lot of things. I mean,
what was it like? Did you have a place to sleep? Did you have food to eat if you needed to use the toilet? What was that like?
Basically, you can't have, you know, okay, basically places where you can sleep, you don't have like a particular place. I'll speak from the Waise community, for example. Many of the street children sleep under, you know, that northern bypass. You look for unfinished houses, like those houses that are under construction. You look for, you know, shops at a veranda, and trenches. There are those trenches where the big trenches, you know, I know in Kampala you have this Nachivugo one. So those down there, that's where most of the street kids sleep. I mean, there is no basically somewhere where you cook food, but it's you buy food because you're always working. I know many of the street kids in Kampala are beggars, but when you go to a place like Waise, many of the street kids are scrap pickers, metal scrap pickers. They're kids that try to do a lot of things on the street to raise money.
We actually had some of the gentlemen in the clips say they'll beat people up to take whatever they have and, you know, get a living. But let's continue with this discussion when we come back from this break. Welcome back. We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center. What's coming out of this conversation is that the problem really seems to lie in the communities, and that's where that's what's pushing all the children and the women onto the streets. We have some clips that are going to be playing throughout this conversation, but I'd like you, Mohammed, to just tell me a bit more about why you think that the communities have a bigger role to play.
First of all, you said that why these people come continuously on the street is partly because of the communities. I myself, before, I used to, in a way of giving back, I thought I was giving back. So every time I would pass street children, I would give them money. Like I have some coins in my wallet, I would pick out and, you know, give them. So in a way, I realized that every day I give to someone else. So meaning if I give to someone else, it's in a way promoting these young people to come on the street. I think at one time I was going to Entebbe Road, just near ShopRite. So I meet this street child, and then he was asking me for money. And then I wanted to give him money, but I did have change. And guess what? He said, I have change. and that's the day I stopped giving street kids money.
So we shouldn't give them money.
I think in a way, when we give them money, we are contributing towards their stay, and they are coming to the street.
Actually, there's some that I'm told when you give them money, I mean, when you give them food, they tell you, we don't want your food, give us money. They actually are picky, they know what they want.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's take some questions from the audience. I'll take yours first.
Okay, my name is Madaya Mark, and my question goes to the lady who works in the NGO. First of all, these street kids, first of all, they have talents. Why don't you guys give them a platform to as in promote their talents? Because sometimes when on TV screens they show us some street children sitting there, but they are showing their artwork. At least you give, if you cannot give them money, let us bring in a platform whereby they can promote their talents. Because first of them, they can do good artwork, and second of all, they are good in making up crafts. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So as opposed to just taking them back home where they're going to run away, is that something that the NGO world is doing?
Yeah, yes, actually, some NGOs, like my friends in UDEL, Uganda Youth Development Network, has done a lot. But most of these children do not want to go there because they don't, most of these destitutes are not willing to lead an organized life because that's not what they were taught in their homes. So they cannot go in to partake of what has been given. So when you talk about somebody bringing in art and all that, we all know very well that when we were in our primary, secondary schools, we did that. So why don't you go back to your primary school? Why don't you go back to your parent?
Well, some of them grew up on the street. It was actually mentioned.
Most of them didn't grow up on the streets. Some of them. Josephine, you have to understand that most of these children are actually unruly. Most of them are not willing to do the right thing. Yes, some of them come from broken homes, but some of these children are actually disobedient. So we have to understand all that. That's why I always think that we need to sit together with all the bodies that are working on this, in Kampala, to come up with something that is conclusive. We need to read all the researches that have been done and get a way of removing these children from the streets.
But is it sustainable just removing them without really understanding? Yes, Mohammed.
You know, I was going to supplement on her point. I mean, she mentioned that a lot of policies have been done, a lot of structures or government systems exist when it comes to these children. But I'm wondering if any of these street children, or even those that are formerly lived on the street, have been involved in formulating these policies. Because we can't think like them. She said they are hard to get back and live in the setting that we live in. It's so hard, that's the truth.
Yes.
Until we have people who think like street children, like when you are organizing programs for these children, they have to either participate in the development of these programs, or we need to think like them.
Well, Jen can tell us,
Yes.
do you actually sit with the street children, or do you speak from?
Yes, thank you very much. In terms of policy development, we consult everyone.
Including them?
Including children.
And women?
Including children living on the streets and working on the streets, because we shall have consult at different levels. Then when you come to the level of children, we have a variety, a broad category of children we consult. Children living and working on the streets, children engaged in child labor, the different categories, because we have partners working with them already. So when we are engaging with the partners, we ask the partners to get for us the different categories we want, and we talk to them. And that also is part of the policy formulation, and they tell us what should be done. And I want to agree with him that when we are resettling them, there are supposed to be programs that are rehabilitative. You engage with them, they tell you what they think they can do. Then if you, within your resources, you can do that, you're able to support them. And what he's saying is right. Because if you're getting them from the streets, of course, the reasons they come to the streets, they've gone through a lot of problems.
Yes.
A lot of things that they don't want even to think about. Now, at the rehabilitative level, we should restore what was destroyed. And how do we do the restoration of what was destroyed? Is by working with them and engaging them, and they tell us what they want to do. And that would be a very good thing for saying, let's engage them in that they do. And that fits in very well in the different programs we have as government. At the sub-county level, we have programs that can support them. For instance, we have the Youth Livelihood Program. If you went to the sub-county where you come from, you can make a group and you apply for that fund, and you will be supported.
One of the comments that's coming in on social media, Adson says the government should provide basic and better services in their communities to prevent them from this urban migration. Is that something that you...
Yes, I can say, when you say government should provide programs, we have several programs at the community level, at the sub-county level, but then the persons should be mobilized to be able to come and uptake of the programs. Okay. And the programs have guidelines on how to do it. That is something that we can do.
All right.
And that's something we're already doing.
Okay, let's just take another question and then we'll continue. Yes.
Thank you. To Kamshawa Maureen, and my question goes to all of us. Are these people actually Ugandans? Are they registered? Do they own national IDs? That's what I want to know.
Okay. Who would like to take on that question?
I can take that one
yes.
on. Yes, they are Ugandans. The fact that they are living and working and living on our streets, they are actually Ugandans. And you will find that they are registered.
They have national IDs?
Yes, it's possible. They do. They do, you know. By the way, the reason as to why people come on the streets, I was coming from the Ministry of Gender, we've engaged with community organizations working with them. There's a gentleman on the streets who is a super rich. Yes, there are people who are very rich, but because the societies where they come from neglected them and abandoned them, they feel dejected and they don't want to continue living in their communities. And they decide to come on the streets, but once in a while, they go back to their families. When they get money, like Mohammed said, they reinvest the money back at home and they come to get more resources and they take advantage of whatever government programs that are there. You will go and you'll find, I don't know, Josephine, you may go down, you'll be surprised to find that most of them have actually national identification cards.
And registered SIM cards.
And registered SIM cards, exactly. Because they are Ugandans, the services should cut across the mass uptake of the services that are being offered. They are.
Okay, another comment actually is from Sam Mubiru, who says, can the government get for them a home and educate them, because all they need is help and love, but government is just pushing them away and telling them to leave. Another one, Nicholas Chanda, says solutions for street children and persons, each one host one. How dangerous is it to just take a street child and put them in your home?
It is very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Extremely dangerous.
Yes.
For starters, we cannot get a home for keeping them. These people come from homes, but like we said earlier on, it's the family network that has broken. For the children you're seeing, they have stepmothers and stepfathers in courts who don't accept them. So the best they can do is to run away. For the older persons you're seeing, the fact that they are now old, some people neglect them and they find they're useless. And yet it is the responsibility of the family and the clan to be able to take care of them. So they resort to get refuge on the streets. You're going to find women with their families. They could have lost their husbands. They could have divorced or separated. And then the family that is supposed to support them and bring them together has also given way. So they resort to leaving those communities because they don't want anything to deal with that community. Whatever they went through is so terrible that they don't need a reminder, so they resort. But what we should then do is to work with them, counsel them, and as we take them back to the communities, get those structures that are supposed to support them and work
yes,
and work with them to be able to make a follow-up on those issues. And we have those structures that can help you if you have issues with your family, you have issues with the community, you have issues with the clan. We have structures that can ably support them.
Okay, another question?
And my question goes directly to the lady on blue from Ministry of Gender.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious to know, at what level and at what length have you engaged community participation?
In respect to?
In respect to street kids, and what awareness have you done to make sure that they are not really coming to these places of urban centers?
Okay. Thank you very much. What we are supposed to do, one of the biggest functions of that ministry is community mobilization. And in community mobilization is talking about what we do, talking about what is good for the community, talking about the services and facilities that persons should take advantage of. And we do that. We have different structures right from the sub-county level that is supposed to help us, actually from the village level, the local council one. When you look at the Children's Act, it is very clear. It's the first court of instance on matters concerning children. They should help us in looking at children and all the persons in their locality. Anybody with a problem must approach them, should approach them, and they try to resolve that problem. When you leave the village level, you come to the parish level. We have parish chiefs. When you come to the sub-county, we have community development officers specifically given the responsibility of ensuring that the community members in their locality benefit from government programs, from any other programs in the communities, and they should be talking to the persons in their respective localities. Then when you get to the district level, there are different structures that should do that. And one of the things that we do is talking about it. But of course, as you know, the center has to hold, and the center is the individual person and the family, because the family is the one that gives a support network, the first support network to individuals. And when the family breaks, when the family cracks, when the family is at a risk, everything crumbles. Yes. And that's why we always emphasize the strength of the family.
Oh. And I think, Agnes, I would want you to supplement on that. You were saying something earlier about our local councils.
Yes. For me, I'm happy that that very soon the elections are coming for the incoming local councils. And in this, I want these local councils to know their roles and responsibilities at the community level, because they are the ones that live with the families. So we want them to take all the responsibility in ensuring that children are well treated in their homes, and that children are obeying their parents, so that children don't have to move from their home areas to come to Kampala, because Kampala in itself cannot support these children. Okay. Somebody talked about government supporting these children directly. You know, government cannot support you directly. You have a parent. Government has already put structures in place. There is UPE. There are, you know, the hospitals, the health centers are there. So take advantage of what is there. No, because how come that you are not on the street yourself?
Because our circumstances were different growing up. But no, let's take one more question.
They are not.
Yes, let's hear your question. Yes. Do you want to be a little louder?
Discipline, actually, the indiscipline or portrayed by these kids, it is alarming. You know, these kids can spit on people. If I tell you, just look at her or him. And what pains me a lot, these most destitute, and more so these ones seen, they are kids, 4 to 6. And then Ministry of Gender is saying that they have tried to remove some of them from the streets, which I think is not true. The ones we see on TV are manhandled by KCC. So kindly account for the indiscipline portrayed by these destitutes.
Okay, there are quite a number of questions coming in for you, so if you can be very brief.
Okay, thank you very much. The indiscipline is because the family gave way and they were not nurtured as children.
Yes.
That is the bottom line. If the family was close to the children, the family nurtured them, they would not spit at people. But it's because they're looking at adults and they see we as a replica of those adults who have mistreated them. Because when you walk there as a gentleman, you're not different from their father who mistreated them. When you move in as a lady, you're not any different from their mother or their stepmother or their aunt who has mistreated them. So they matter to you what they should have done to their parents. That one shows you that somewhere we did not do our work to make sure that the children are protected.
Okay, and I'm just going to give you one question that's coming in from Romeo, who'd want to know very quickly, can NGOs create shelters where the children can get meals? And what are the NGOs doing to reduce the number of children on the streets?
NGOs are doing quite a lot of work. First, we do return those children back to their homes, and we also try to empower the children, as I said. We try to teach them, you know, give them skills to engage in viable, you know, not children actually, some of them are above 18.
So there's no hope for them getting meals from a shelter?
No.
Okay, Mohammed, I'm going to hear from you, but let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'll start with you. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. We're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Conference Center. Before we took a break, Mohammed, you had something to say about the shelters very quickly.
A couple of years ago, the organization that I co-founded established a home somewhere in Bwaise, and it started with a pilot of 5 girls from the street, and it was basically a rehabilitation home for some of these girls, and they would have food. We had netball. It had a big space where they would play netball, volleyball, sleep, and then some of the days we used to have counselors coming in to talk to them, to counsel them.
And what happened?
And we would get these girls at some point on a Monday to Friday to come to our vocational training center. So we have trained about 1,087 young people in this vocational training center. It's why I say
so it actually
business and
works. We
vocational
shouldn't
training
rubbish
center.
be quick to rubbish the shelters.
Yeah, so basically our system from the shelter, they go in the morning to the vocational training center. They pick one of the 7 skills that we train. They pick any of what they want to learn, and then they finish after 6 months. They complete a program. They are graduated. They are given startup capital, like toolkits, to go and start up a business. But at the same time, we reunite them to their families. So we take them back to their families.
Agnes, it can actually work. A shelter can actually work if it's properly structured.
Yeah.
I think. Well, another comment is coming in from Jerry, and he says, we have structures and people in place to get things done, but they are not empowered to deliver.
Yes, thank you. In terms, I don't know what exactly says empowered to deliver. They have the skills, they have the knowledge, but maybe the resources is not enough to let them fully be functional. But the structures are there. And I think that is one of the things that we are planning to do, to ensure that all our structures are existent and they have the resources to do what they are supposed to do. And like Agnes said before we went for the break, that the LCs should be trained. Yes, it's a requirement that once they are elected, like we are going to have them elected, they have to be taken through their roles and responsibility in their respective offices. And the Minister of Local Government does that very well.
Okay. And a final question from the audience in one sentence.
Yeah, I've heard several times that the street children, there's some people behind them, like officials and some groups. I would like you to clarify how true is that. Thank you.
Mohammed?
Yeah, actually that's very true. It was going to be in my closing statement, is that I think the government has failed to actually maybe take this as a problem in the first place and maybe think on how basically they can deal with this problem. These kids have identified themselves. I would give an example before I come to him. I was coming from Jinja.
Yes.
As a stop, this kid came with a hanky to clean the window of the car. Means that now they are running away from begging. They're actually pretending to give a service so that you give them money. I think that's why that's what we need to appreciate in the first place, and then think, okay, can we maybe create a car space so these kids can wash cars and we give them money so that maybe they are doing that as a job. When I get to his point, there are people who use these kids to make money. Some of them send these kids to go and collect money. So those kids we see as beggars, they have a kid. Someone is sending them and they're collecting money from them. The others, I know people who have, you know, they buy sweet bananas. So they buy these sweet bananas, they get these kids where to sleep. So they bring these street kids in the morning with bananas to sell. And they actually take that money back. So meaning that there are people who have taken advantage to organize some of these kids to make them money. And that is what's happening. And it's true. I've seen some of these kids.
Do we actually know that this is true from the government side?
From the, I can't say it is wrong or true, but like I said earlier on, we still get down to the community. For sure, the family and community, you just imagine what Mohammed has explained. Somebody brings children and uses them for begging. And then that is the problem now is with that person who has brought the children. That is where the problem is. And you know, when we see the children, and it's true, when you look at the children, it is more than what meets the eye. There's somebody behind it. And we've tried, we even got to the people behind it. And we've dealt with it as a ministry because we have a desk working on street children.
What is the long-term plan of the ministry? The
long-term plan of the ministry, of course, we work with the different local governments. This is not only a problem in Kampala, it's a problem in all urban settings up-country, all the districts, all the big centers. And our plan has always been that the structures should be able to do their roles and responsibilities. And this year was declared by His Excellency a year of family. And we are doing everything around the clock to ensure that we strengthen the family. The long term is getting to the family and community. That is what we have to do. Once we strengthen the family and the community, and we also strengthen those structures that we have, then I think we shall not be having children. And one of the things we encourage the local governments to do is to come up with ordinances child protection ordinances that should deal with children living on the streets, parents abdicating from their responsibility of taking care of their children,
I was
community
actually
members.
going to ask you about child-headed families. So NTV ran a story I think it was last week, about a boy who was taking care of his older sister. She's 19 and I think he's 14. So it's a child-headed family, and for them it's not that it's an option that they just came to the street because they were, you know, mistreated or something, but they qualify as destitutes. What help is there for them?
Now, when it comes to child-headed households, that is a category of vulnerable children that we have in our policies at the ministry.
Okay.
And when we get to the child-headed family, we should now get to the next of kin. We look at the continuum of care. If the family has broken, where is the next of kin who should take on this child?
Does the
and
government
the family?
qualify as next of kin if all your family is not available?
No, it's not the government comes at a different level. The continuum is you start with the family. In the family, you have an auntie, you have an uncle, you have a grandparent, you have the big clan. We all come from clans, don't we?
Yes.
And it is very big, and that is part of our family. We should try to get to one of them who should be educated to be able to take on the responsibility of these children.
I'd like you to just make your closing remarks in 5 seconds.
5
so
seconds.
Our time is gone.
Thank you very much, Josephine, and my fellow panelists for giving us the opportunity to be here. My final word is the family, the community should take on their responsibility. Because when you go back, for us who grew up in that setting, we were held responsible for one another. And that is what we should do.
Even now.
Even now. Okay. The moment you see people on the streets and you go and find somebody coming from your district, coming from your village, coming from the region you come from, you should get concerned because that is your responsibility.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Agnes, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Josephine, for this opportunity. Mine, like she has said, goes back to all of us Ugandans. It's our responsibility to look after our children. We should stop talking about the government. I know so many towns have destitutes, but in Uganda it's becoming a very big problem. So we need to go back as families, look into what we are not doing right. Our children need to be more obedient. For example, all of us were beaten when we were children. But you see some of these children and somebody tells you that my mother used to beat me. I mean, that is, you are supposed to stay with your mother.
The level of beating was different from...
No, no.
Just make your closing remarks.
So, you know, beating is beating. So we need to go back and obey our parents. Parents need to look after their children. Fathers, especially, need to take responsibility in homes. Do not leave your responsibility to the father, to the mother, to look after the children.
All right.
So mine is all about that.
Family and
family.
Okay.
But then also, I want to talk about
in 1
KCCA.
second. Oh.
I want to talk about the ministry. I want to talk about basically the government. So we all need to play our roles.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mohammed.
I think quickly there are just going to be two things. I've been to the US. Every country that I go to, I make sure that I go to the slums or the projects. So I was in the States and I went to some projects, but the government is not going to run away from a shelter. I'm telling you. I've been to different parts of Europe and there are shelters for street people. Okay. And in every country there are street people, but they're supported by the government through shelters. So I don't think it's going to be a unique government.
Okay, and the second thing?
The last thing is I think it's at a time where we need to recognize these people as an opportunity. I think there are people who are taking advantage of them. They just need to be organized. They just need to be identified as a solution to this country. If they do beautiful art, and we give them a lot of money when they do this beautiful art. Okay. But it takes a government to think, okay, if they do beautiful art, can we create a gallery where they can put this art and people give them money, where we can find their beautiful arts and give them money. Okay. I think, and there's a lot that can be done in skilling these people. All right. Recently...
Mohammed, my time is fast spent, unfortunately. I'm hoping you're on social media so that people can reach you and hear your comments. On, is any of you on social media? Oh, great. So this conversation is going to continue on our social media platforms. Mohammed promises to engage you if you use the hashtag PWJK. NTV Weekend Edition is coming up next. Skip it, NTV.